Every year, NFL players, and especially rookies, have expectations heading into the season. However, and I haven't really addressed this too much on the channel so far, but players this year will be impacted like they never have before based on how this offseason went. There's always exceptions, and I think this is fair to say, but 2020 will probably be the most bizarre offseason we will ever have. We were quarantined and put on lockdown, and in some places still are, but what was especially weird was how everyone was. There wasn't a privilege to athletes or whoever, and because of that, this season will be drastically different, and especially for rookies. That brings us to the topic of today's video, as we're going to discuss overall expectations for everyone due to COVID and how this offseason played out. But before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. We start today's video off by discussing this about rookies. The draft this year, especially in the first round, wasn't really unpredictable like it usually is, and I think COVID had a lot to do with that. Teams wanted to take the safer prospects because they couldn't go to their workouts and their pro days, and a lot of people may roll their eyes because teams should be able to scout based off of film, but the pro days and individual workouts with the team make a lot of difference. And because of this, I think teams were scared to take a risk, as the Giants went with the safest tackle in the draft in Andrew Thomas, and both the Redskins and Lions went with very safe players at picks 2 and 3. I'm not addressing the Burrow pick to Cincinnati because everyone knew it was going to happen for months. This pick happens with or without COVID, and that's all there is to it. A risky selection you could say, though, was the Eagles' pick of Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, but they are still good players nonetheless. Teams have been preparing for this for months, but what I think a lot of fans should realize is expectations are different for rookies this year, especially because there's been no rookie camp and no OTAs. This will impact a player's progression in terms of how they adjust to the league, and there's no doubt about that. There has been videos of players working out together, but that's not exactly the same as being at camp competing against other teammates, and players posting workouts for Instagram isn't the same either. While there is a good majority of players that are going to report to their team's training camp in tip-top shape, there is going to be a lot of players, and I hate to break this to you guys, but a lot of players will report to camp either overweight or out of shape. We have seen guys do this normally, and it's a very fair question to ask. How do NFL players that get paid millions report to camp out of shape when that is literally their job? Now I'm going to ask you, what do you think will happen when there's absolutely nothing going on for months and players have guaranteed contracts and they can't go anywhere, whether it be to a club or on a vacation or wherever? Sure, there will be guys that take it in the way where they say to themselves, okay, I have nothing going on, let's go grind. But there will be veterans that say, I have X amount of million guaranteed in my contract no matter what, and I'll get into shape when I get around to it. The quarantine has impacted us all one way or another, and we will see soon how it has impacted the NFL and its players in both positive and negative ways. Rookies have, and I'm using quotation marks here, learned playbooks by using Zoom calls and having them sent to their house. And while I'm not criticizing the organization shipping them to their house, I think there's a world of difference between learning it on paper and having it come off the textbook in real life. Due to this, I think rookies will, as a whole, have a down first season because there's a huge adjustment period for a lot of positions. Some, like running back, are usually fluent and they don't miss a beat, but for the tight ends in this class, and it was especially weak as it is, may end up being historically bad due to this. I think with COVID and how it's impacted us all, it will prove for a lot of players that the step between the college game and the NFL game is a lot bigger of a jump than some players make it seem every year. And for what this is worth, I'm assuming everyone knows the Adam Thielen story, but a basic rundown for those who don't was Adam had a camp invitation with the Vikings in their 90-man roster in 2013, and if he got cut in the first 3 days, he had a job selling dental equipment lined up, and as you could say, the rest is history. Because of COVID in 2020 at least, there will be no Adam Thielen stories, it's just not happening. And also because of COVID, there's going to be players that, and rightfully so, want to sit out of games or generally don't feel comfortable playing in them. And honestly, who could blame them? There's 106 players combined between the teams, plus however many coaches and film crews that show up to these games, and if players stay home for their safety, I don't think you could get upset or blame them. Stefon Diggs tweeted, quote, "There's so many unanswered questions with this upcoming season, I'd be lying if I said I was comfortable starting back up," end quote. Yes, Diggs has the diva personality and everything else the media says, but what he says here is completely valid, and I can almost guarantee a lot of other NFL players are thinking doing the exact same thing. And while I'm on this, the NFL recently said there will be no jersey swaps after games this year, and I think everyone can agree that's ridiculous, as we will have players sweating and tackling each other for 3 hours, but can't exchange a jersey after a game in fear of the virus spreading. I'm not a doctor, but I don't think the virus would spread through a jersey swap before it would spread through 100 men breathing near each other and physically landing on other men, especially in a 10-person fumble fight for the ball situation. The 2020 NFL season, if there is one, will be unique and considerably different from anything we have ever seen before. And if you think there's going to be fans, I'm sorry to break this to you, but we'll be lucky to have a season even without them. Of course, the NFL will want the revenue, it's just a part of life with how money changes everything, but we will be genuinely lucky to have a season to begin with. The only way the NFL will allow fans in the stadium is if they sign a paper heading into the game that basically says if you get COVID, the NFL is not liable, because surely one person that attends a game out of however many thousand they let in will either have symptoms or come across someone that has had it recently and they just don't know it yet. And that could be a stranger on the street that walks by a fan heading into the game. The point here is it's going to be incredibly dangerous to let even as small as a few thousand fans in the game, because as we know, they're not going to want to sit there with their masks on over the course of a 3-hour game, and I wouldn't want to either. Conversely, I won't be going to any games this year with or without NFL allowing fans to attend. I personally think the risk to go to an NFL game in 2020 is certainly not worth the reward when I, or anyone else for that matter, including you guys watching this, can watch the game on TV at home. Another way COVID will impact the NFL is by coaches' job tenures. Some coaches that come into this season on the hot seat may get another year after this season because, to be fair to them, they have a pretty good excuse as to why their team will be a 5-win team in 2020 if it turns out that way for them. And likewise, if rookies like Joe Burrow, for example, do bad in their rookie season, then they will get a free pass because of COVID happening, and the media will say, okay, that's fine, he had 60 touchdowns at LSU, set records, and now let's see what he can do with a normal offseason of work, assuming next year there will be a sense of normalcy. And for other players like Justin Herbert, for example, he probably won't play too much in his rookie season, at least not at the start, and I can't really blame the Los Angeles coaches for doing so. Project players will get passes more so than ever, and I personally think we have a lot higher percentage of busts this year than ever before. It's one thing for a guy to be bigger, faster, stronger at the professional level than he was at the collegiate level, but it's another thing to have those instincts and reflexes players need to separate them from the rest of the group. COVID has obviously impacted us all, and we will hopefully soon find out how it impacted the NFL and how prepared some players were and how unprepared some players were. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video. If you ever have a suggestion for a video, please drop it in the comments. Again, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.